how does the urban mine grow? Well, on the left, you can see here all of the production of the things that we use. And on the right, you can see the recycling of all the things that we have used, including landfills. Note that the modelling of products in this way is and the lifetime of products is a moving target, but which performs a crucial role in the modelling itself. So how big is the urban mine in the regions? Well, you can see that from this slide, the spread of the urban mine, the size of it. And also you could say, well, what is the value of the urban mine? Well, you can put your own value to that, calculate it using any example price.
So, of course, as many of us will know, this is the price history for copper. We can see here pretty clearly that we had a kind of long run of fairly low, stable prices back in the 90s when I first started looking at copper. And then, of course, we had this kind of massive boom, really from about 2001, created by the demand boom in China. But more recently, what we've seen is prices jumping up to record highs above 10,000. And that's really been driven by an easing of lockdown measures in Europe and the US, and also persistently strong demand in China. Ahead, the three C's are really going to be crucial here, which is COVID, of course, no surprise there, climate change, and the cycle in US interest rates. So the three C's there.
So COVID has been an awful period of time for the world, but in my view, it's also been the jumpstart that the world needs for this climate change push and buy-in from all the major economies. So we were going to be entering into a new investment cycle anyways for copper around now, but now we're supercharging that investment period for some of the reasons Daniel just mentioned, the EV revolution, but also the movement of energy production to renewable sources. And you can see on the slide how much more copper you need for some of those applications. But basically what we're doing is we're moving from a fossil fuels world to a metals world. And governments are going to need to embrace mining for that shift to take place. I'm not sure the world is ready for that, but that train, we believe, has left the station. I agree with Daniel that likely to see some surpluses over the next few years, but the amount of copper that is expected or required after that is considerable, and we just don't have that capacity in the pipeline. We're also at a point with inventories where if you have the failure of one of these major copper mines, let's say Escondida, a pit wall fails, copper price is going to shoot to dollars per pound. So there isn't really a buffer built in the market today.
As it stands now, usually in a relatively high cost material environment, users would tend to look, for ways forward, which looked at the overall products, the capex that they were selling, for example, and they might think of, there might be some low-hanging fruit type products and uses, but really, with everything as we know it, clean tech, electric vehicles, for example, they've got motors, they've got high-grade foil in the batteries, they've got buzz bars in the batteries, they've got more and thinner wiring, which only copper can do. You've got charging infrastructure, and you'll need copper for energy efficiency in most places. So I think, at least for the time being, the starting place is copper, and then alternatives might come in once systems are more understood, and where people are looking very hard at inventories. But it seems that really, in the clean tech environment that we're in, it's difficult to move away.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah, no, it's a very good question. I mean, I think, I mean, obviously Christian could talk in a bit more detail about how miners might react, but I think that the obvious thing to say really is that miners, of course, have to really second guess what the future is going to look like. You know, so they're building a project for the next 10 to 20 years. And obviously the copper price, as we saw, is extremely volatile. And, you know, so those kind of fluctuations are not, you know, are as expected really, and as we've seen many times over the past 20, 30 years. So I don't think a pullback is going to make that much of a difference. I mean, I think as long as prices remain high, which I would say is anything really above 8,000, that's still a very high copper price. Those kind of numbers are still going to be a pretty good environment, I think, for most projects. So I would say, yeah, I think we are going to see lower prices in the next year. And given that prices tend to overshoot on both sides, it wouldn't surprise me if we come back below 8,000. But I don't think that's going to be enough to really make a massive difference in terms of putting people off too much. Because I think many people do buy into this longer term story of, you know, copper demand's going to rise. We do need to fill up the pipeline more than we have already. And so that's kind of how I see things really for the next year or two.
That's a great question. And permitting a mine and building a mine is, in my view, one of the most difficult things to do on the planet. So it's not easy anywhere. And within each jurisdiction, you're going to have areas where you can do it and areas where you can't. What is very apparent right now is the rule of law and the stability of Canada is supreme, especially when you look at the main copper producing regions in Peru and Chile. A lot of the new projects that are supposed to come on over the next few years are in Peru with investment decisions over the next few years. Big companies don't like to invest big money when they don't know what they're going to be paying on taxes and royalties in 2 years, or the government is threatening to nationalize. So while there might be grade benefits or economic benefits in some cases on some of these projects down in South America, I see Canada winning out of that. Now, you asked about the United States. In my view, the United States is the most difficult jurisdiction in the world to permit. Major jurisdiction outside of some European countries, you know, odd countries here or there. But the U.S. has not shown an interest to build mines in their backyard. And Joe Biden just recently mentioned publicly that he's looking for the world to supply the metals that they require for the green revolution. So he's admitted as much. And Pebble is one of them. Resolution is another one. Look at Polymet in Minnesota as another one, etc.